Daniel had always considered himself a trusting husband. 5 years of marriage to Rebecca had been built on what he thought was mutual respect and honesty. But lately, something had shifted in their relationship, like tectonic plates grinding beneath the surface of their life together. "Working late again," Rebecca announced, barely looking up from her phone as she applied lipstick in the hallway mirror. It was the 4th time this week, and it was only Wednesday. "Another project deadline?" Daniel asked from the kitchen, his voice carefully neutral. "You know how it is at the firm. Thompson wants everything perfect." She grabbed her designer bag, the one he'd bought her for their anniversary. "Don't wait up." The door closed with a soft click that somehow felt louder than a slam. Daniel stood in the kitchen, his coffee growing cold in his hands, and stared at the calendar on the refrigerator. Little red marks dotted the past 6 weeks, each one representing another late night, another cancelled dinner, another excuse. He wasn't a suspicious man by nature. His parents had raised him to see the best in people, to give the benefit of the doubt. But even trust had its limits, and those limits were being tested with each passing day. Rebecca had become a stranger who occasionally slept in his house. Her laughter had disappeared. Her warmth had evaporated. The woman who once couldn't wait to tell him about her day now guarded her phone like it contained nuclear launch codes. That evening, Daniel sat alone in their living room, the television playing to an empty room. He'd made Rebecca's favorite meal, chicken parmesan with homemade pasta, but it sat untouched on the stove, slowly congealing. He looked at the framed photos on the mantel, their wedding day, their honeymoon in Italy, last year's Christmas with both their families. In every picture, Rebecca was radiant, her smile genuine, her eyes full of love when she looked at him. When had that changed? When had he become someone she needed to escape from? His phone buzzed. A text from his brother. "Beer tomorrow night? You've been MIA." Daniel realized he had been withdrawing from everyone. His friends, his family, his hobbies, everything had taken a backseat to the anxiety that now consumed his evenings. He was waiting for a wife who didn't want to come home. At midnight, he heard her car in the driveway. The door opened quietly, as if she were trying not to wake him. But he was awake, had been awake, staring at the ceiling and doing calculations in his head. If she left at 7 and returned at midnight, that was 5 hours. Her office was 20 minutes away. Even with a grueling workload, even with traffic, even with dinner at her desk, the math didn't add up. Rebecca appeared in the bedroom doorway, and in the dim light from the hallway, Daniel could see she'd been drinking. Not falling down drunk, but there was a looseness to her movements, a slight gloss to her eyes. "You're still up," she said, surprise in her voice. "Couldn't sleep." It wasn't a lie. She moved to the bathroom without kissing him goodnight, without asking about his day, without any of the small intimacies that had once defined their marriage. He heard the shower running, another new habit. She always showered when she came home now, even though she'd already showered that morning. Daniel made a decision then, lying in the dark while water ran in the adjacent room. He would know the truth. Not because he wanted to catch her, but because he deserved to know what his life had become. He couldn't continue living in this limbo, this half-marriage where he was present but she was absent. The next morning, Rebecca was already gone when he woke, another new pattern. A note on the counter, "Early meeting. See you tonight." Daniel picked up his phone and downloaded a location-sharing app. 3 days passed before the opportunity presented itself. 3 days of Daniel watching the blue on his phone screen follow the familiar route from their house to Rebecca's office building downtown. 3 days of hoping his suspicions were wrong, that there was some rational explanation for everything. Thursday evening arrived with dark clouds and the promise of rain. Rebecca performed her usual routine, the careful makeup application, the designer bag, the perfume that seemed more generous than usual. "Late night?" Daniel asked, keeping his tone light. "Thompson needs the Morrison brief by morning. I'll probably be there until 10 or 11. She kissed his cheek, a perfunctory gesture that felt more like checking a box than showing affection. "There's leftover lasagna in the fridge." "Be safe," he said, and watched her leave. Daniel waited 15 minutes, then opened the app on his phone. The blue dot representing Rebecca's phone moved through the city, and his heart sank as it passed her office building without stopping. It continued north, into the warehouse district that had recently been converted into trendy lofts and upscale clubs. He grabbed his jacket and keys, his hands trembling slightly. Part of him wanted to stay home, to remain in ignorance, to preserve whatever illusion of marriage they still had. But the larger part, the part that needed truth more than comfort, pulled him toward the door. The rain started as he drove, following the blue dot on his screen. Traffic was light, and he maintained a careful distance, his rental sedan anonymous among the evening commuters. The dot stopped moving in front of a building he recognized, the Meridian, an exclusive private club that required membership and connections to enter. Daniel parked across the street, his windshield wipers beating a steady rhythm. Through the rain, he could see the entrance clearly, a discreet door with a suited doorman checking names on a list. As he watched, Rebecca emerged from her car, but she wasn't alone. A man stepped out from the driver's side, tall and athletic, wearing an expensive suit. He placed his hand on the small of Rebecca's back, and she leaned into him with a familiarity that made Daniel's stomach drop. They laughed together at something the doorman said. The man's hand slid lower, possessive. Rebecca didn't pull away. They disappeared inside the Meridian together, and Daniel sat in his car, rain hammering the roof, feeling like he'd been punched in the chest. He should have expected this. All the signs had been there. But knowing and seeing were two different things, and the reality of his wife's betrayal hit him with unexpected force. For several minutes, he just sat there, breathing, processing, feeling the foundation of his life crack beneath him. Then something shifted inside him. The initial shock crystallized into something else, not anger exactly, but clarity. A sense of purpose. He'd been living in her lie, caught in her web of deception, dancing to her schedule of excuses. It was time to reclaim control of his own narrative. Daniel picked up his phone and began making a plan. He thought about confronting them, about bursting into that club and making a scene. But that would give Rebecca the power, the chance to spin the story, to make excuses, to manipulate the situation as she'd been manipulating him for weeks. No, this required something different. Something that would expose the truth without him having to say a word. He thought about Rebecca's family, her parents who adored him, her sister who'd stood as maid of honor at their wedding, her brother who'd helped him pick out the engagement ring. They all believed in the fairy tale of Daniel and Rebecca's perfect marriage. An idea began to form, audacious and brilliant in its simplicity. He opened his contacts and started composing a group text to Rebecca's family. Then he paused, deleted it, and opened his video streaming app instead. Sometimes the truth needed to be seen, not told. Daniel sat in his car, the rain creating a curtain between him and the Meridian's entrance, and set up what would become the most important live stream of his life. His hands were steady now, purpose replacing shock. He opened his streaming app and titled the session, Rebecca's Late Night at the Office. Before hitting the Go Live button, he created a private invitation list. Rebecca's mother Patricia, her father Robert, her sister Michelle, her brother Grant, and her aunt Caroline, the family matriarch who'd given them her grandmother's china as a wedding gift. He added a simple message: you need to see what Rebecca's been doing during her overtime. Please watch. No need to respond or tell her. Just watch. His thumb hovered over the send button. This was it, the point of no return. Once he exposed Rebecca's affair to her family, there would be no walking it back, no private resolution, no chance of quiet reconciliation. But then he remembered the feeling of eating dinner alone night after night, of sleeping beside a stranger, of being lied to with such casual ease. He pressed send and went live. The stream started with his voice, calm and measured. I'm sorry to involve you all like this, but I think you deserve to know the truth about what Rebecca's been doing. For 6 weeks, she's claimed to be working late. Tonight, I followed her. She's not at her office. She's here. He panned the camera to show the Meridian's elegant entrance. Watch with me. Within minutes, he saw the viewer count climb. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All 5 family members had joined. No one left. No one sent him angry messages. They simply watched, and Daniel could imagine their faces, confusion giving way to concern giving way to dawning realization. For 90 minutes, nothing happened. Daniel kept the stream running, occasionally narrating in a quiet voice. This is how I've spent my evenings lately. Waiting. Wondering. Now you're waiting with me, and you can see what I've been dealing with. At 9:47 p.m., the door to the Meridian opened. Rebecca emerged first, and even through the rain and distance, Daniel could see she was drunk. Her carefully applied makeup was smudged, her hair disheveled. She was laughing, stumbling slightly on her heels. The man followed, the same man from earlier, but now his tie was loosened, his jacket over his arm. His hand found Rebecca's waist, pulling her close. Daniel zoomed in. The camera captured everything in stark clarity. The way Rebecca leaned into the man, the way her hand rested on his chest, the way he tucked a strand of hair behind her ear with practiced intimacy. Then, right there under the Meridian's awning, sheltered from the rain, they kissed. It wasn't a brief kiss. It wasn't a friendly kiss. It was deep and passionate, the kiss of two people completely comfortable with each other, completely unaware they were being watched by 6 people who loved Rebecca and had trusted her. Daniel kept the camera steady, though something inside him was crumbling. This was his wife. The woman he'd vowed to love forever. And she was in another man's arms, kissing him like Daniel didn't exist. The man called a car. While they waited, Rebecca checked her phone. Daniel watched her face change on camera, confusion, then shock, then growing horror as she scrolled. The viewer count on his stream had remained steady at 5 throughout the broadcast. 5 people who'd now seen everything. Rebecca's phone was clearly exploding with messages. She looked around frantically, as if sensing she was being watched. The car arrived, and the man tried to guide her into it, but she pushed him away, suddenly panicked. She grabbed her own phone, probably calling for a ride home, her face pale even under the club's lights. Daniel ended the stream with simple words: "Thank you for watching. Thank you for bearing witness. I'm sorry you had to see this, but I couldn't be the only one carrying this truth anymore." He drove home ahead of her, parked in the garage, and went inside. Then he did something that surprised even himself. He went to bed. Not to sleep, but to wait. This confrontation would happen on his terms, in his time, without the dramatic scene she might expect. The truth was out now. It wasn't his burden to carry alone anymore. Daniel heard Rebecca's car screech into the driveway at 10:23 p.m. The front door slammed open with enough force to rattle the pictures on the walls. Her heels clicked frantically across the hardwood floor, moving from room to room. "Daniel! Daniel!" Her voice carried an edge of panic he'd never heard before. He remained in their bedroom, sitting calmly on the edge of the bed, still fully dressed. He'd used the 30-minute head start to do something important. He'd forwarded the stream recording to his own lawyer along with a calm, detailed email outlining the past 6 weeks of deception. Rebecca burst through the bedroom door, her makeup streaked with tears, her hair wild. She still smelled of expensive cologne, not his cologne. "What the hell did you do? What did you do? I think you know what I did." His voice was quiet, almost gentle. It wasn't the tone she'd expected, and it stopped her mid-stride. "You had no right. You followed me. You spied on me. You live-streamed me to my family." Each accusation grew more shrill. "I documented the truth," Daniel corrected. "I documented where my wife actually goes when she claims to be working late. I documented the man she kisses when she's supposed to be in the office. I let your family see what I've been seeing for weeks now. My phone won't stop. My mother is crying, my father won't answer my calls. Michelle sent me a text that just said 'How could you?' And Grant," she choked on a sob. "Grant said he's ashamed to call me his sister." Daniel nodded slowly. "That sounds about right. They love you, Rebecca. They trusted you. Just like I did. And you betrayed all of us. You bastard. You calculated, cruel bastard." She lunged at him, and he stood, catching her wrists gently but firmly. "Don't," he said simply. "Don't make this worse. Don't add assault to adultery." The words seemed to drain the fight from her. She collapsed onto the bed, sobbing into her hands. It wasn't supposed to be like this. It just happened. Trevor and we were working on a case together, and things just... Trevor. His name is Trevor. Daniel felt a strange detachment, as if he were watching this scene happen to someone else. "How long?" 2 months. Her voice was barely a whisper. 2 months of lies. 2 months of working late. 2 months of coming home and showering immediately. 2 months of treating me like a roommate you tolerated. He moved to the dresser and began pulling out clothes. I need you to understand something, Rebecca. I didn't expose you out of cruelty. I exposed you because I was tired of being the only one living in reality while everyone else believed your performance. Where are you going? Panic crept back into her voice. Guest room. Tomorrow, I'm going to a hotel. You can have the house while we sort out the divorce. He paused at the door. I already contacted my lawyer. The video is evidence. Your family's reactions are witnesses to your behavior. This is going to be quick and clean because you left me no choice and no dignity. The least I can do is reclaim both. Daniel, please. Please. We can fix this. I'll end things with Trevor. I'll go to counseling. I'll do whatever you want. Please don't throw away 5 years of marriage. She was begging now, mascara running down her cheeks. He looked at her, really looked at her, and felt nothing but a distant sadness. You threw it away the first time you lied to me. You threw it away every time you kissed him. You threw it away when you chose him over our vows. I'm just accepting the reality you created. My family will never forgive me. The realization seemed to hit her fully. My mother always said integrity was everything. Yes, Daniel agreed quietly. She did say that. At our wedding, actually. In her toast. She said, Rebecca, you've always been a woman of integrity, and Daniel, you found your equal in that. I remember thinking how right she was. He opened the bedroom door. Turns out, she was half right. I hate you, Rebecca spat, her grief transforming to anger. I hate you for doing this. For humiliating me. For turning my family against me. No, Daniel said. You hate yourself for getting caught. There's a difference. He closed the door behind him, her sobs muffled by the wood. In the guest room, Daniel's phone buzzed continuously. Messages from Rebecca's family, but not angry ones, supportive ones. Patricia, we're so sorry, Daniel. We had no idea. You're still family to us. Grant, bro, I'm here if you need anything. That was gutsy as hell. Michelle, she doesn't deserve you. Never did. And then one from his own brother, just saw what happened. Coming over tomorrow with pizza and bourbon. Daniel set his phone on the nightstand and lay back on the guest bed. For the first time in weeks, he felt like he could breathe fully. The divorce proceedings took exactly 43 days, a record, according to Daniel's lawyer. Rebecca's family's complete withdrawal of support had an unexpected effect. She had no one to validate her victim narrative, no one to help her paint Daniel as the villain, no one to fund a lengthy legal battle. Daniel sat in a coffee shop 6 weeks after the live stream, meeting with Rebecca's sister Michelle. She'd asked to see him, and curiosity had brought him here. She moved in with Trevor, Michelle said, stirring her latte absently. Dad won't speak to her. Mom cries every time her name comes up. Grant deleted her from all his social media. I didn't want to destroy your family, Daniel said, and meant it. You didn't. She did. Michelle met his eyes. That live stream? It was hard to watch. But you know what would have been harder? Years from now, finding out we'd all been supporting her through a divorce where she played the victim. You gave us the truth. That took courage. Or desperation, Daniel admitted. Maybe both. She smiled sadly. I need to tell you something. Rebecca came to my house last week. Wanted to borrow money. She and Trevor are already having problems. Apparently he's not as excited about being with her now that it's not forbidden anymore. Funny how that works. Daniel felt no satisfaction in this information, only a hollow acknowledgement that patterns tend to repeat. How is she? Lost. Angry. Refusing to take responsibility. Michelle sighed. But that's not why I asked to meet. I wanted to give you this. She slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a check for $15,000. "What's this?" "Mom and Dad wanted you to have it. It was supposed to be Rebecca's inheritance advance for the down payment on your dream house. They said the dream was always yours, not hers. Use it for your fresh start." Daniel's eyes burned. "Michelle, I can't." "You can and you will. You were family to us for 5 years. You're still family to us." She squeezed his hand. "You showed more integrity in exposing the truth than she did in the entire marriage. That means something." 3 months after the divorce was finalized, Daniel moved into a new apartment overlooking the river. It was smaller than the house he'd shared with Rebecca, but it was entirely his. His brother helped him move, along with Grant and 2 of Daniel's college friends who'd resurfaced after he'd stopped isolating himself. "This place is perfect for you," his brother said, surveying the open layout and floor-to-ceiling windows. "New chapter, man. New life." Daniel stood on his balcony that evening, watching the sunset paint the river gold and orange. His phone buzzed, a text from a woman named Victoria he'd met at his friend's gallery opening last week. "Still on for dinner Thursday?" He smiled and typed back, "Absolutely." The live stream had gone viral in certain circles, spawning think pieces about public accountability and digital age confrontation. Daniel had declined all interview requests. The truth had been for Rebecca's family, not for the world. But the world had taken its lesson anyway. Deception, no matter how carefully maintained, always costs more than honesty. Patricia called him once a month now, checking in like he was still her son-in-law. "You're too good a man to lose," she'd said after the first call. "Rebecca lost you. We won't make the same mistake." Daniel heard through mutual acquaintances that Rebecca and Trevor had broken up. She'd moved to another city, trying to escape the weight of her choices. He felt no vindication in her struggles, just a quiet understanding that actions have consequences, and sometimes those consequences are permanent. One evening, Daniel ran into Thompson, Rebecca's boss, at a restaurant. The older man paused at Daniel's table. "I need to tell you something," Thompson said. "There never were any late-night projects. I gave her standard hours, normal workload. When I heard what happened, I checked her time cards. She'd been clocking out at 5:30 every day for 2 months, then changing the times in the system. I had to let her go for time card fraud." Daniel thanked him for the information, though it changed nothing. The truth had already been exposed, already done its work. 6 months after the divorce, Daniel stood in his apartment with his brother, both of them holding beers, celebrating Daniel's promotion at work. "You did good," his brother said. "Not many people would have handled it the way you did." "I just needed the truth to speak for itself," Daniel replied. "I was tired of being the only one who knew." The live stream was genius. Cold, but genius. Daniel shook his head. "It wasn't about being cold. It was about not having to argue my reality. I didn't want to spend months trying to convince her family that I wasn't the bad guy, that I hadn't driven her away, that she'd made these choices on her own. The video did all that for me." No confrontation, no shouting match, no he said she said. His brother clinked his beer bottle against Daniel's. "Just undeniable truth." "Just undeniable truth," Daniel echoed. A year later, Daniel stood in a new gallery, his own photography displayed on white walls. The exhibition was titled Clarity, images of moments caught in perfect honesty, unfiltered and raw. The centerpiece was a photograph he'd never shown anyone, a blurred image taken through rain streaked glass, showing 2 figures beneath an awning, illuminated by streetlight, captured in a moment they'd thought was private. He called it Overtime. Patricia attended the opening, along with Michelle and Grant. They'd become his family in truth, not just in name. "Thank you," Patricia said, standing before the photograph, "for loving my daughter enough to tell the truth, even when it hurt." "Thank you," Daniel replied, "for believing the truth when you saw it." As he watched people move through his exhibition, Daniel realized that the live stream hadn't just exposed Rebecca's affair, it had freed him from the exhausting work of maintaining a lie he hadn't even known he was living. It had given him back his voice, his dignity, and his future. Rebecca had chosen deception. He had chosen truth. And truth, as it turned out, was the ultimate form of self-respect. The betrayal had ended his marriage, but the live stream had saved his life. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do isn't to shout or rage or seek revenge. Sometimes, it's simply to let the truth speak for itself, and trust that those who matter will listen. Daniel left the gallery that night with Victoria on his arm, surrounded by friends and family who valued honesty. Behind him, the photograph of Rebecca's betrayal hung on the wall, not as a trophy or a reminder of pain, but as a testament to the moment he'd chosen to stop living in someone else's lie and start living in his own truth. The overtime had ended. The real work of living authentically had begun. And this time, he wouldn't need a live stream to prove his worth. His life would speak for itself.